Welcome to the Truth Podcast. I'm your host, Hany Rambod. I'm here with my co-host, Austin, and we are here in Dallas
for another Q&A. Back at, every time. He's throwing that out there for every single time. Yep.
I know. I just need to get another.
Doesn't make sense.
We need another co-host. Dallas, that's from Austin.
Dallas from Austin.
That's right.
We got back with a Q&A.
Yes, it's Q&A time. So right now, there's been a lot of people that are hitting me up on social media, especially IG, asking me to do Q&As, and I've been taking those Q&As, and we are diverting them over here so we can be able to create a little bit more of an organized effect. So for those of you that are listening on the download, whether you use Spotify, whether you use Amazon, whether you use Apple, you can go ahead and also check it out on YouTube. So always remember, please, you guys share, subscribe, like. It really helps the algorithm. It brings it up. It tells us that you want to see us do this. And again, I'm super, super busy, especially this time. We're just under 16 weeks out from the Olympia competition. So I will continue to do these if I see that you guys are making an effort to tell us what you want to see and that you're giving us feedback. So in the comments below, let me know other questions that you would like answered in future Q&A. Now, let's get this going.
Yeah. Y'all showed up this week. We got a lot to go over.
Yeah.
So I think some people asked this question because they saw what you were having for dinner. Was it last night? We had some sushi last night.
Yeah, last night. So it was Sunday sushi.
Yeah.
Did a workout. We went to Absolute and trained. It was myself, Farronez, and Cam. And now is Cam's favorite exercise is deads.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
9 years old.
Starting young.
Doing deads.
Yeah.
I think because since he's learned how to do them, a lot of people are very impressed the fact that there's a 9-year-old doing some deads. Mm-hmm. Again, he's not going heavy or anything like that. He's going really light.
315.
No. He's just got like little plates on each side. And but his form is really good. And what is really cool is the fact that there's so much camaraderie in that gym, and everybody's so professional that they're like super cheering him on, and he just feels all pumped up. So he's just like, "You got to check this out, Dad," because everybody's clapping because he's doing a good job and he's working on his form.
Yeah. So some pre-sushi deadlifts.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was the wifey wanted cheat meal. We got to get Farronez on here. So if you guys want to see,
that'd be a great.
Farronez on here, let me know.
Yeah.
Go on the comments below.
I think we'd get a lot of interesting insight.
Yeah. I'm going to deal with Hany Rambod. How is it after many years?
So they're asking what your favorite sushi roll is.
Yes, because they saw the pictures. We went last night. What I like is I love a rainbow roll. Because it's got the different kind of fish in there. But what I normally do is I usually get them to put real crab because they'll use the imitation crab meat.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite roll. That's like my go-to roll. Obviously, most of you who've been following me know that I've been gluten-free for over a dozen years now. And so the gluten-free soy sauce is very, very important. And then also making sure that I don't have anything else that can really tear up my stomach.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where if you go with a rainbow roll, no sauces added, obviously sometimes they'll put eel sauce, they'll put on different things. And that's just for my stomach.
Okay.
And for my athletes, I do like sushi as a cheat meal. So it's one of those things where if you need some extra sodium, it can really help you fill out, bring up your weight, kind of help with the pumps, help with your mind-muscle connection when you end up getting a little bit flat during that prep. And between that, sometimes we'll throw in the burger. Again, functional when it comes to, has to be a little bit of taste involved so that you break up the monotony of the diet.
Give your mind a break too.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because if I said, hey, this is a great meal and it's go out and have some horse meat and eat that with a little bit of camel meat and then with some kangaroo meat with 8 ounces of Mexican yam that's been picked from the highest mountains of Mexico.
This is going to get clipped right now. Hany assigns kangaroo meat to all of his athletes.
Yes, kangaroo meat. Actually, kangaroo meat's a thing.
It's good. I've had it.
Yeah, kangaroo meat's a thing. It's got a lot of iron in it. So if you do eat it often, you could have some really, really high iron levels to the point where it could be toxic. So you got to be careful. But it's very inexpensive, especially compared to a lot of different meats that are out there in Australia. So I have had clients a while back where they were eating a lot of kangaroo meat and their iron levels were like off the chart. So you have to really be careful with that.
Well, we were but we made a quick jump to kangaroo meat. I love that how we got there.
Again, going back to functional,
exactly.
Right. So the question was, what's my favorite cheat meal? Yeah. Or what's my favorite sushi roll? I like a rainbow roll, but using crab, it's my go-to. But anything with salmon also in it. I'm a big salmon lover.
Now that actually kind of segues us into what you almost mentioned it right there is sushi your go-to cheat meal, or do you have another cheat meal that's like your favorite? And I'm not saying for athletes, for you specifically.
For me specifically,
not athletes.
Dude, I'm Persian food all the way. I'm Persian food all the way. I love my kebabs. In the Dallas area, there's not as many Persian restaurants as there was in the Bay Area. So it's especially not next door to my wife's store like there was in Campbell where we'd go all the time. I mean, Hany practically prepped over there when he was eating chicken.
Wow.
But they made him clean food. But even when you're eating off diet, cheat meal, one of the questions I got last night also on my phone, direct on my IG, was bag or kubide. So either bag is a kebab that's filet mignon.
Okay.
And it's just like a kind of, I don't want to say minced. It's just been flattened and then it's been put on a kebab skewer. And then the kubide is kind of like the go-to, the burger of Persian food, but some people go out like Persian meatloaf. There's no breadcrumbs in it, but it's onion. It's got seasoning, ground beef. Sometimes they'll mix lamb in there with it. And I personally like that because I like lamb, but I like it mixed. That is my favorite kebab, kubide. But you do get the kubide burps. If anybody has ever had Persian food, because of the onion in there and then the seasoning, you do taste it for a while after.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've told stories upon stories with Jay and Phil and just everybody. I think I took Vernon Davis to the restaurant and he liked it so much he went by himself the next day.
Wow.
Yeah. He liked it so much. He's like, I had to go there. And he's like texting me and he said, hey, I'm going to that Persian restaurant. Tell me what to order. Just texted to him.
That's the go-to cheat meal.
That's my go-to cheat meal. I love it. But here in Dallas, it's been barbecue because the barbecue is so good. And I've always been a barbecue fan. In Cali, there's not really good barbecue. There's kind of okay barbecue, but obviously Dallas is Dallas barbecue. It's like going to Persian food and you go to Persia, right? You go to Iran. And so it's one of those things where I usually give athletes a burger or it would be sushi, something to give them a mental break that they like. The things that we've talked about in the past where I don't like is pizza because of the carbs and fat, and then it just destroys your stomach and then you can't eat forever. So I have given it in the past. So I'm not going to say I never speak in absolutes, but that was something where if somebody was super flat and I felt like they needed it and I'd go light on the cheese and they're just super, super depleted.
Yeah.
But for the most part, because of the cheese, it becomes so hard to break down and you become almost lactose intolerant because you haven't had it for a while, that when you reintroduce it, you end up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours where you can't eat.
Yeah.
And so and then sometimes even to the next day where you're on the pot and your stomach is so tore up. So it's almost like a night of drinking.
Yeah.
It's not just the drinking that screws you up. It's the next day.
The food hangover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I'm going to bookend it because you said Persian food with one quick little bullet point in one. Then what's your junk food? Like what's your fast food? I might already know it. It might be In-N-Out, but
I don't like In-N-Out.
Really? Oh, okay.
No. I used to be able to eat it.
Because I've just seen it in videos and stuff. Okay. So what would you say is quick fast food?
Like I said, 12 years ago when I was eating bread, now it's all gluten-free bread. It was okay. And then for a while I was doing the protein style, but it's been probably like 2 or 3 years since I've had In-N-Out burger, even protein style. So I'd rather go to, I'm more of a Five Guys.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to go to one of those type of burger joints, I'll do that. Or I'll find somewhere that has a gluten-free bun. And then that's the way to go. So if any of you are out there that are gluten-free, you understand what I'm talking about. You'd rather have a gluten-free bun than having to eat a lettuce wrap. But at the end of, you want to be able to make sure that you're hitting that I'm satisfied button, because the worst thing you can do is go somewhere and feel like I really wanted something, but you had to settle and then you didn't. And then you're just so disappointed.
A lettuce wrap is not a burger. No, it's not. It's
and when you're doing a cheat meal, do a cheat meal.
Yeah.
Don't try to do a half cheat meal. Yeah. Sid Gillian was great at that. When we were in Houston, she's like, we're at dinner. We're doing an Evogen dinner. I'm going to quick little story. We were at the Houston show. It was actually a Houston Expo. It was about a month ago.
Yes.
It was about a month ago. Yeah. And she was supposed to have a cheat meal on Saturday night. But she had dinner with us, which basically meant just coming in. I don't even know if she even had an appetizer or not. But then she got an Uber and she had to go get her cheat meal. And she drove across town, got her cheat meal. And her cheat meals consists of like 2 or 3 burgers, fries, drinks. I'm saying drinks, like meaning whatever drink she wants with it. And I don't know if it was a dessert or not, but it's substantial,
Yeah.
like what an open guy would eat. This little woman was able to just destroys it.
We got some big eaters on our team. I know Derek's that way too.
Derek can be that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Derek is a person who's like a bulldog who just can eat. If you guys have ever seen a Frenchie or an English bulldog and they just can eat, he's definitely that way. Hany, on the other hand, is not. He's not an eater. No. You have to just you gotta eat. He's like, oh.
He's got like force feed.
Yeah.
Almost.
I think he's just not as big of an eater. Jay wasn't either. Jay hated to eat.
You could see in all those videos of him just like sitting there just.
Yeah. It would take him forever to eat. Down. And he was just like.
Yeah.
So there might have been a time where he liked it way back when, but in recent history, I can't remember any time where he liked to eat. He's just like.
It's a chore.
He's like, this sucks.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, all right. Staying on the topic of food, this is actually a very hot button topic right now because of all these different protein recipes and everything floating around out there. Do you think a great bodybuilder can diet on protein pancakes over chicken and rice?
No. No. I think if you're getting ready for a show, whole food is the way to go. Not to say you can't slip something in, but top guys are not going to be able to do that type of thing getting ready for the show. Now, off season, absolutely. But it sounds to me like he's saying like just doing protein pancakes, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably already like alluding to the fact that a lot of people are finding these crazy ways of using a lot of low calorie sweeteners and different things like that.
Those are fine. Off season's fine.
Yeah.
Off season's fine. And throwing those in from time to time, especially early on in the prep, not a problem. But when you start to really get down to getting closer to a show, doing all of these sugar-free sweeteners that are syrups and this and that, I mean, a ton of sugar, alcohol, and all of these other things, you're going to end up having issues. And you're not going to look the way you're going to want to look because you're going to have digestion issues when you're putting in all those sugar alcohols, especially all throughout the day. Because some of these people get really extreme with these things. They think that they're going to drink shakes all day long.
Yeah.
I looked my worst when I was competing when I had 3 or 4 shakes a day. I looked my best when I did 1, maybe 2 during my prep. But I've tried to do preps with 3 or 4 shakes and your body doesn't look the same. It needs real food.
Yeah, there's a weird focus right now on just only macronutrients and not the fact that there are other things involved. That people just hitting their macros, but with weird items, and they're not
like if
thinking
it's your macros type.
Yeah, but not thinking about the micronutrients.
So there's different. So whoever's listening to this, you're going to listen to this with 2 points of view. One is a trainer / athlete, and then another person who might be listening to this is just somebody who is a recreational bodybuilder. These are different strokes for different folks. If you are a competitive athlete, you're going to want to cross your T's and dot your I's. You're not going to be able to do those if you're fit your macros and get into a high level show and look your best. You're just not, especially if you are trying to get your pro card, win the Olympia, all of those things. Those are all different types of athletes that are going to have, they're elite athletes. All of those things count. Now, if you're just trying to get better, there's some different things, and I'll call those bodybuilding hacks that you can use. And just to be able to kind of break up the monotony. And that's okay too. So if you want to break that up, like what you're saying, it's totally fine. You can go on TikTok. You can go get a bunch of recipes. I've seen so many things pop up on my feed. Yeah. Right. So if you're not following me on TikTok, we've been doing a lot of content on TikTok. And it's been really nice because we had some really good growth on there. Thanks to you. You've been helping a lot on that. So thank you. And I feel that it's one of those items where you see a lot of these people using these different hacks, and they're saying, hey, I'm taking chicken. I'm going to make bread out of chicken. I've seen it.
I've seen that too.
Yeah. And they're making bread out of chicken. So now that we're talking a little bit about food on this, Q&A, it's really important that you put yourself into that category of, hey, what's good for me? I might be getting ready for a show, or I'm a contest prep coach and I'm listening to this podcast and I want to be able to take takeaways. What might be good for the goose may not good for the gander, or vice versa. So what that means is that what you might be able to take away from this is some of these diet tricks and hacks are going to be really good for your clients that aren't getting ready for shows, but you might be able to use them for off season, or if they're just lifestyle clients, it's great. But if you want to use them to try to get somebody dialed in at the highest level, I don't feel like those are good go-tos.
Got it. Yeah. And actually, this leads us into an interesting, because we've covered food, we've covered digestion, and a few things briefly in there, but somebody's asking what's the best supplement to use for going to the bathroom?
For going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of magnesium-based products that help with that. I make a product called Light and Tight. So you can try whatever you want. There's colon cleanse. There's different fiber products. I feel like fiber is a great tool. Some different kinds of soluble, insoluble fiber combinations that are out there. Try those. But also if you need something just to help with just a little bit of that extra bowel movement because you're on low carbs, that's why I created Light and Tight, because that's what I've used. But that doesn't mean that just increasing your fiber won't work, but you have to do it in stages. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to just hammer it with 3 or 4 different things. Always try to, when you're creating a solution to a problem that you have, whether it's going to the bathroom or whether it's increasing the pump or whether it's fat loss, what you want to do is you want to start off with 1 or 2 variables that you want to change. If you go into it and you say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do dieter's tea, fiber, and something that's going to help with these other bowel movements, some pill-based product, what you're going to end up doing is you're just going to shit yourself. It's plain and simple. And it's going to be really, really bad. And it's going to be really at the most inopportune time. Okay. You're going to be doing cardio outside in the middle of a field. And you're going to start looking around and be like, can I
feel like a field might be one of the better options.
Well, it could be anywhere. Yeah. It could be anywhere. You could be in the middle of a squat session, right? Like a heavy leg day. And it could be really bad for you. So again, before you embarrass yourself, add in with 1 product at a time.
Cautionary tale.
Because it's all of those things can be a 1 + 1 = 5,
or a number 3. You never know.
Yeah. Number 3 is number 2 on steroids. So just really dial it in.
Yeah.
Because I've seen, especially the women, they have a lot of problems with, I've seen in the past where they won't go to the bathroom for days on end. Guys don't usually have that problem as much. And I'm speaking again in generalities, but in the past, when I worked with a lot more women, I would see that sometimes there would be 2, 3, 4 days without a bowel movement. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Where guys would be like, I poop after every meal.
Right? 6 times a day.
Yeah. And so what's happening is that it's hormonal sometimes. Also, it's hydration, making sure your hydration levels are on point. So for you to properly poop, there's lots of different scenarios that you have to think about and what might be deficient. Hydration's one of them, fiber's another, and making sure that you're just getting the right foods and your body's ability to digest at a high level is there. So if you've been on antibiotics and you haven't taken a probiotic to be able to do that, you could go one way or the other. You could either really get the shits because your stomach's in an imbalance, or you can turn around and be constipated because it's just, again, imbalanced. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, but my suggestion is to start 1 at a time and work your way up.
Awesome. All right. Sticking on the supplementation kind of track here, we have questions about 2 products leading into a show. If you could cover a bit about how to use Superdry leading into a show and also how to use evolog heading into a show. Okay.
Yeah. I saw those questions and they were both on IG that I forwarded to you. So evolog is not meant to be used during the, I guess, what do you call the beginning stages? Depletion, I don't even call it that, but because I don't like to deplete my athletes.
You're talking peak week?
Yeah. Peak week depletion. Yeah. Because when you're low carb, it's not intended for low carb use. It's moderate to high. So usually 150, 200 or more is when I start to add in evolog. 1 capsule at 100, 2 at maybe 150, 200. And then anything more than that, we go 3, sometimes up to 4 a day. And when we're going all the way through the carb up cycle, because evolog is a glucose disposal agent, but it also has some enzyme in it, what I like to do is increase that as the week progresses and the carbs go up. So again, at least 3, 4, maybe 5, depending on the height and weight of the athlete, a day for evolog. What a lot of people don't understand is that you don't really want to create a scenario where you're not taking anything during low carb. So I add in the enzymes by themselves, digestive enzymes by themselves during the low carb phases, because you don't need a GDA. Now, going to the answer to the second part of that question, which is Superdry. Superdry, I used to start at 5 days out. Now, what I've been doing is I've been starting it about 2 weeks out and start taking it almost kind of an adjunct to the fat burner, just to help with a little bit of that water loss, especially if someone's holding a little bit of water and I want to just see peel back a layer or 2. I might start them out there between 10 to 14 days out. But again, it really depends on how much water they're holding. If they're super dry themselves already, pardon the pun, is that then I will wait to use it a little bit later.
Okay.
Now, some people will still add in other types of diuretics as you get closer. This is not meant to say this is the cure-all. If your body needs it and you're working with a coach and they're saying, hey, we have to use something stronger, that's going to be up to you. But ultimately, that's how I use it.
Awesome. Sweet. And this actually blends into kind of one more question talking about post-show is how you can take post-show to help with a rebound afterwards. To take evolog to help with the post-show rebound.
Evolog?
Yes.
Okay. So evolog post-show, I would definitely do it because you're going to be needing something for digestion and you're going to need something for GDA. So you can go ahead and use that. And again, you don't have to use my product, guys. I'm just using this because these are questions off of my IG. If you have other favorites that you want to use, by all means, use what you want. My thing is that my program was designed to be used so that these are solutions that I needed, and these are the products I designed for my solutions. You've been using something that you like, go ahead and use it. But when I'm using these products, I don't just stop them. I tend to continue to get my athletes to use them because as the calorie surplus happens and you're ending up using more foods and you're eating a little more freely after the work, after the competition, that's when you really need extra help because you want to be able to try to minimize any of the bloat. So we continue that on for at least another week. And then if we need a taper, we can. But a lot of people like to use evolog continuously, and it works really well.
Awesome. All right, we kind of got some variety now going into these next ones. When is the FST7 app coming to Android?
We're working on that. Yes, I have to follow up with the developers. I know a lot of people have been asking me that. And I think another question that we had was, are we going to have one that's going to be Farsi friendly?
Yes.
And right now it's not in the works because right now the primary focus is trying to get the Android launched. So we're getting a lot more people. If you are interested in using the app or you're wanting to try the free trial period, you can use The Truth is going to be the code. That's the one that I hinted to the one prior podcast. So just type in The Truth and it'll get you the ability to use it and try it for free.
Awesome. Sweet. All right. This one it's very interesting. I think a lot of people have this question. Can you live a luxurious lifestyle as a bodybuilder?
A luxurious lifestyle. There are the top athletes, yes. But how you do that can be several different ways. Now, you win the Mr. Olympia, you win $400,000. Now it costs money. It takes food, it takes supplements, it takes, all of those other things you have to take into consideration because it's not just whatever you make that you from the show that you net. There's a lot of expenses that are involved. But there's people that are making a lot of money that don't even step on stage. Influencers. Modern day influencers make a ton of money without even having to get on stage. Now, in bodybuilding, I think one of the key problems we're seeing is that some people also think that just because they do well in bodybuilding, that makes them really good at influencing.
Yeah.
So if you want to make, high-end money and live a luxurious lifestyle, that's what they asked? Luxurious?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to live a luxurious lifestyle, you got to be not only good at doing well, but you have to influence. You have to be able to say, how do I influence people? Whether it's a clothing company that wants to sign you, whether it's a food company that wants to sign you, whether it's a supplement company that wants to sign you, whether it's an accessory company that wants to sign you, any of those things. And some of the top influencers have multiple clothing lines that they rep. Some of them have their own clothing lines. So I think that what you need is diversity within your branding portfolio. And for you to be able to live that luxurious lifestyle, like if you want to be able to go out there and get $100,000+ car and you want to be able to, have a really nice home and be able to live that lifestyle, you've got to be a good influencer first. You can't just be a good athlete anymore. You have to be a good influencer, and then the great athlete to boot really helps because then that gives you content to be able to use, to be able to
credibility.
Credibility, absolutely. Yeah. And then it gives you content to be able to give to your audience because they want to be a part of your journey. So in the competitive landscape, it's not just about, hey, I want to go there and win a show. You can go out there and win a show. Let's say you go win the Arnold Classic. And if you don't do any content, you won $200,000, but all the ancillary dollars that you could have made from being able to get people to be a part of that journey is left on the table.
Yeah. That's not really where the real money is.
That's not.
No.
So That's why I'm saying there's so many influencers out there that make a really good living. They live a luxurious life. And I'm talking about the people that are fronting a side, because there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
So there's
renting the cars.
Renting the cars, doing short-term leases. And I'm not talking about a 3-year lease, a 2-year lease. Yeah. We're talking about 3 to 6 month lease, 1 month lease,
Airbnb for a day.
Airbnb for a weekend, and then pretending like it's your house. A lot of that goes on in the influencing world. But if you want to live a really good, luxurious lifestyle, you have to have diversity within your branding portfolio, but you also have to make sure that if you want to compete, that you're competing and you're giving that audience a really great, genuine look into your journey. So, and I feel that the people that have been able to do that, whether it's an athlete or influencer, are the most successful that are out there.
Actually, this next question kind of blends perfectly into that, but it's more directed at you. Is what's your dream car?
Dream car? Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, this is from yesterday, because I posted a picture of the E30 M3. So that, believe it or not, was my dream car. Was my BMW M3, the
you still
first
have
one.
the same one, right?
Same exact
car.
It's the exact car.
Wow.
It's the exact car. It's just got a lot more miles on it.
Yeah.
It's got a lot more miles on it. But I was the second owner of that car. I bought it from an attorney that was leaving to go to Hong Kong because he was leaving his residency, and he was in a really tight time pinch. And this is back in 1993. Yeah, 1993. And I had gotten a really good bonus check for being the #1 trainer at 24 Hour Fitness right out of high school. And I had seen that car in a showroom in San Francisco. And they had one parked in the showroom, and then they took one and they put it on display. You know those circular car showing
out
racks?
Front?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it spun.
Yep.
So that was it. And it was up in Mill Valley, which was like an hour and 20 minutes north of Los Gatos, San Jose area where I grew up. And so I drove by, I looked at it, and I was like, I'm going to get that car. I'm going to get that car. Yeah. And this goes into a little bit of that vision board that I always have talked about in the past, or if you've listened to me speak at some of the events that I've done in Dubai and some of the other places, where you really, I feel every person who's listening to this podcast or watching this on YouTube, you should have these different goals in mind, whether it's a vacation, whether it's a home, whether it's a car, and you should have smaller little rewards that you give yourself, and then some larger ones. So anytime one of my athletes would win the Olympia, it was a watch, or it was something. It was something that I would reward myself with, because it also helped me remember all the trials and tribulations I had to go through for that particular prep. So from year to year, I can remember what watch, what this, what, you know, so
that's cool.
It was something that I did, or a trip, something that I would help reward myself, because I would sacrifice so much of my personal life was given to that. So when I was looking at these cars, and I was always into cars growing up, I was surrounded by a lot of gearheads, especially at that time. I think now cars aren't really as big of a cool thing as they were when I was growing up, but it was one of the things that I really wanted to be able to say. I wanted to go to the track because I had some friends that used to track even in high school because their dads tracked. And so when I did that and I followed it, I said, I want something where I can drive around town that's going to be quick, and I can go through the mountains of Northern California and rip through the canyons, or I can take it to Laguna Seca, or I can take it to Sonoma, I can take it to Thunder Hill and have some fun. And what I wanted was something that I can be able to, when I get it from a long day of training a lot of people, I can get in there and say, this is worth it. So I ended up saying I wanted an E30 BMW M3. And at the time, those cars were not as highly sought after as they are now, because now they become unicorns.
Oh yeah, big time.
But they were having problems selling them at the time, because there were such a limited kind of scope for people, where it was like that body kit came stock, and not a lot of people were into that boy racer kind of car. So, but again, I found an opportunity where somebody was selling one used, only a couple years old. The guy had to leave, and I ended up giving him an offer, and he's like, oh, I don't know if I can take that. And then a couple of days later, he called me and said, you got that money? It's like, yeah. He's like, meet me at the bank. So I went down there, and we did the deal, and I still have the car. You know, obviously there's been some mods been done to it. But I still have it. And so
we don't need to disclose it, but I know you've mentioned some top speeds you've hit in that thing, and He was pretty quick.
In Mexico.
Yeah.
In Mexico.
Exactly.
Yeah, in Mexico. Yeah. For that little 4-cylinder, it rips.
Yeah.
It rips. And, it really was a fun car. We took it everywhere. I've driven up and down California, Vegas. I've taken it everywhere, at least most of the West Coast. But again, California is a very big state. But I used to drive it all the time from the San Francisco Bay Area to Santa Barbara when I went to college, and then all the way down to San Diego. And it's got a ton of freeway miles on it. And I think it's less than 1,000 miles on the rebuilt motor.
Whoa.
But for all you gearheads, let me know if you guys want to talk, want more videos on car stuff, because I'll definitely throw some one. Yeah, we'll do a car episode. And the car culture here in Dallas is pretty big.
It is.
I know Kukla is very big into cars.
Yep.
I know he's got a ZR1.
Yep.
And there's a lot of other people.
Cobra.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And so again, it's a very big car culture. But yeah, going back to it, that was something that I learned to do, is put things on a vision board.
Yes.
And that's what it is. So it might be different. Every person's vision board's different, but make sure you have one, because I really feel that it creates that connection where it makes you more likely to want to aspire to actually acquire and attain those different items.
You get little rewards to motivate you to keep going. So I think a lot of people just push that off, and then they never get that little spike of, oh, I actually get something out of all the hard work I did. It's just, they just kind of push it off all down the line. So I think, it's cool to have those little milestones where you actually gain a reward and then are motivated for the next milestone. All right, this is actually a very, very interesting one. Would you want your son to get into bodybuilding?
Would I want my son to get into bodybuilding? I would want my son to get into anything that he wants to get into. I'm hesitant on, he mentioned football, right? He wants to play football, and he's 9. And obviously I'm not the tallest guy, neither is his mom. And so he's definitely on the shorter side. Now, size wise, he's on the 75th, 80th percentile for weight, but on height, he's a bit on the shorter side. So that's one thing that I would say, you got to be careful, even though I was also, and that's what got me into bodybuilding, was to train. I would like for him to do whatever he'd like. He's doing Taekwondo right now. He's doing some weightlifting with mom, comes in with me a little bit and does some weightlifting. You'll see him, I have videos of absolute recomp. And if he wants to go down the road, 100%, I will support him. The things that I'm always wary of is making sure that we educate, just like I try to educate all of the young members of our audience, that when you have the ability to now all of a sudden start looking at things like perform PEDs, all those things, to really max out your genetics before you go there. So those are the things that always come to mind as a parent. And I, even as a coach, I'm like a parent in some ways to a lot of my athletes.
Yeah.
And especially now that I've gotten older, right? So it's one of those things that I really want to be able to make sure that I segment the information and make sure that they can properly go down that road. So would I want them to be a natural bodybuilder? Yes, especially in the very beginning. And then if they feel that they genetically want to make that decision and in their early to mid 20s, then that's something that they could do. But going back to the football thing, he was asking me the other day, he wanted to play football. And he said, what do you think? And I said, well, I hurt my neck, I've hurt, gotten hit where I'm like, wow, I got stingers and, all kinds of stuff where I'm just like, wow, like you feel, you get your melon shaked when you're playing. And I played both sides. I played offense, defense. I played special teams. I was going in there and you just bam. And you're just like, the next day you're just like sore as hell. Like you feel like you gotten just a pretty good bender.
Yeah.
And so when you play football, it's a whole different world. And now he's asking about that more than bodybuilding, but it changes all the time. Before that was WWE. He was playing whatever game, and now it's Madden.
Yeah.
So before that he was some WWE game. But he's 9.
Yeah.
So
whatever route he kind of wants to go.
Absolutely.
Down.
But if you have kids that are involved, get him to understand, like, he knows so much about macros. He knows so much about food because his mom explains everything to him. She's very educated.
And that's applicable to everything.
Absolutely. And it gives you those tools to understand things. So we're trying to just make sure that he understands what the things are, because he sees what we do. He sees what his mom does on a daily basis. He sees what daddy does with a lot of his clients, and most of the time for himself. My problem is I just don't eat. Yeah. And then when I do, I'll have big meals late at night, because then I finally, when everybody's asleep, and I'm trying to get caught up, and I'm working on Middle East hours with our athletes in the Middle East, or with our distributors in Dubai, my hours are all screwed up. My problem is the sleep. But I think ultimately, if you have kids, you've got to try to get them into that fitness, understanding fitness and food at a very young age. Because I think the younger you do that, the more that they'll be able to understand it and cope with it later.
Yeah. Awesome. And you actually kind of mentioned this on the last one. The question is, any tips for height growth?
I'm like a wrong guy to ask. This is kind of like someone's trying to be funny.
What are you talking about? You're 6'4". Right?
Yeah, 6'4", closer to 4'6". But yeah, I think it's someone going in there asking that question is almost like asking somebody that's got like no calves how they grew their calves and they got a little bit better, versus somebody who's got genetically really good calves. You don't want to ask the guy that's got genetically really good calves how they train their calves, because the chances are they don't. But if you go in there and you say, hey, you used to have shitty calves and now your calves are way better, what did you do? That's the person you want to ask.
I don't think they can even give tips. Are there tips? There's surgeries, I guess you could do.
No, for calves?
No, for height growth.
Oh, for height growth.
What the question?
Absolutely. No, there isn't.
No.
I think, like I said, I think that they're just, they're goading a little bit. I think that just make sure you have, like, if you're growing up, just like my son, right? He doesn't have the tallest parents. I just mentioned that just a few seconds ago. If you make sure that they're getting plenty of really good, clean food, make sure they're getting a lot of sleep, make sure they're getting plenty of exercise, and that's it. Yeah. Playing basketball, the old Persian thing used to be, if you play basketball, you get taller.
Really?
Yeah.
Science.
No. The science is a lot of science going on.
Bro science.
There's a lot of bro science.
Persian bro science.
Yeah, and you're like, Mom, where did you hear that again? Like, like, grandma or somebody said it, right?
It's not that tall people play basketball.
Right.
It's short people play basketball.
But if you play basketball,
tall people.
Yes. It's that old wives' tale.
Doing it all wrong.
It's something like, so that's it. It's like, no, they're tall, so they play basketball.
I have a very, very serious
Don't ride a horse, otherwise you'll look like a horse jockey and be like 4'11".
Yeah, this is just shrinking down. Very serious question here. You ready? Why do I feel like my left hand is weak in comparison to my right hand?
Dude, where are you getting this shit up?
These are our questions. These came through the Q&A.
Repeat that.
Why do I feel like my left hand is weak in comparison to my right hand? I think this could go many ways.
Yes, obviously you're doing something with the other hand. It's overtraining. Something's going on. Yeah, we'll
just leave that one.
Yeah, I mean, let's just try to make it serious. If the person's serious, there could be an injury. There could be some different things going on. But I don't think they're being serious. So let's go on to the next question.
All right, so we got some training questions. Moving into some of that. Why don't you? I've noticed this myself too. But why don't you have any of your athletes flat bench?
It's a good question. I discussed it off and on for the last 20 years. Anytime I've seen an injury to someone's pec, it's always had to be around a flat barbell press. I feel like bodybuilders are more likely to tear their pec on that over any other exercise. I have seen it on an incline too, but not as much. But I keep my athletes away from barbell flat bench because of that. I've had athletes tear their pec even when I've told them not to. Don't do flat bench. And they still did. And especially at 400 pounds, 500 pounds, and then lo and behold, torn pec.
Is it just a specific moment, like motion and angle of it where it's
just flat barbell press is more likely to tear your pec over any other exercise.
And it's so interesting because that's like a staple right off the bat that everybody says.
So what do I do instead? I use dumbbells for my athletes. I'll use machines and it doesn't happen. But when you go, especially when you start going heavy, over 350, 400 pounds, there's some tightness in there and it's just an anatomically awkward position and boom, torn pec.
So kind of moving into the next one, do you like barbells for any other, like any exercises? Or?
Absolutely. Okay. I like it for bent over rows, overhand, underhand, barbell rows. I like to use it for if we're incorporating deads, whether it's off the ground or partials.
Okay.
I like that. I feel that they're definitely barbell squats, all of those things. But if you really want to minimize the likelihood of getting a pec injury, stay away from flat barbell press. If you want to do some kind of flat, use a machine or use dumbbells. That's my recommendation. I like dumbbells also because, and I think there was a question regarding dumbbells, right? Yes. What was the question?
The question about dumbbells, let me pull that up really quick, is more or less that one was just about dumbbells versus barbells, which is kind of what we're talking about right here.
Okay, so the reason why I'm a huge fan of dumbbells is because it really allows the ancillary body parts to kick in. So for example, dumbbell shoulder press. Why do I like that better than barbell shoulder press? Same thing. I don't think you're going to end up hurting your shoulder per se as much, but it's really just your arms, your forearms, your triceps, all of the different areas around, just outside of just your basic deltoid, is also going to work. Just getting the weight up, doing all of those ancillary items. Your body really tends to grow from using those dumbbells. And I feel that dumbbell incline presses, dumbbell shoulder presses, dumbbell flies, all of those things really kick in a lot of those ancillary movements, especially when you really try to go heavier. And again, use proper form, but you're going to allow your body to grow in a lot of different regions, not just the area that you're trying to concentrate on for that particular workout.
Do you think you also, it's just being able to adjust your angles a tiny bit more and not to be locked into one specific linear, grip? Do you think that, does that assist in it as well, or does that not make too much of a difference?
It does, because you can start using different angles on the same set. So for example, I'm a big power neutral grip press on incline. You see me do that with a ton of athletes because I really like to hit that upper chest. So we can go from a basic palms forward all the way to a power / neutral grip, which is palms facing, and do a press, whether it's flat or incline, from one exercise right to the other. And you can get more variation out of it using dumbbells than you can with a barbell.
Got it. Awesome. Kind of an interesting question here about age in terms of putting on mass. It was a question asking about why it's difficult to put mass on my legs once I've exceeded 40, and also other body parts, why it's more difficult once you get to that point.
It's difficult to get out of bed when you're after 40. I'm not even kidding. Let me. There's a little bit of seriousness to this. When you get older, the same reason it's hard to get out of bed. And I'm not kidding. What happens is you lose flexibility. And as you lose flexibility, you tend to not want to do exercises like squat. And I know guys who have a problem squatting in their late 20s, in their mid 20s, in their early 30s. So when you're over 40, you're definitely much lower on the totem pole of your flexibility. Like being able to be, when you see little kids and they can grab their ankle and move their hand, go touch their head.
They can just sit to the ground.
They can just do whatever they want because of just the flexibility. And then as they get older, they lose flexibility. And when you start to bodybuild, if you don't really work on your flexibility, it's going to really lower the depth of your squat. You're going to be so tight. You can't move your hands back to hold the barbell. All of these things tend to happen if you don't constantly work on that. And so when you're doing that and you're starting to train, so many people start training in their teens. Late teens, let's call it, sometimes earlier, but you don't work on that flexibility. By the time you hit 40, you're so tight, you're not going to be able to break parallel in your squat. You're putting like 25s underneath your ankles because you can't really get any depth. You're going to end up not being able to touch the barbell when you're doing barbell squats because you're not going to be able to barbell squat. You're going to end up having to use a Smith machine, or you're going to end up having to use all these other types of equipment to work around it because of just pure flexibility. So I think a lot of it has to do with flexibility. Yeah, someone's going to think right off their head, oh, decline of testosterone, or recovery, or this or that. Yeah, those things as well. But the number one issue is flexibility, in my opinion.
Okay, awesome. I got two more solid ones before we kind of move into a kind of a final question. Would you like to come to check out Fort Worth Barbell?
Fort Worth Barbell. I have not heard of that gym yet.
Okay.
But I'm totally open to try any gyms in the area.
Yeah, there's a lot of great gyms in DFW. I think it might be coming from the owner there. The other question is, are you going to be attending the Dave Lieberman Natural Ohio show in October?
The Dave Lieberman Natural, I really want to try to make it out to that show, but right now it's 50-50. We've talked about sending you, if I'm not able to go, so that you can help with being able to take pictures of David and sending him over to me and kind of act as a chaperone.
First show, you kind of need some backup there.
Yeah. So because of his first show, I'm really trying to get out there. But I will be announcing that as we get closer.
Okay.
I think we're 5 weeks.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. So what we'll do is I'll be announcing it if I'm going to be coming out there.
Okay.
But at the very least, I'm going to have you there as a second set of eyes for me.
Yeah.
Being able to help dial him in.
Okay.
But I did see David yesterday, so maybe this will be a good natural segue to an update. He's looking really good. He's still in the 173 to 176 range on his high carb days. He's 176. Again, remember, he's an all natural. David Butler is 5'10". He's getting ready for his first show. He's an employee at Absolute Recomp. He's an Evogen athlete that we basically started talking the last 4 or 5 months and been helping him with some of the workout things. And then now it's been a couple of months where he's decided to do his first show. We're helping him with that. And it's been cool because being able to reset and do things where I haven't heard, well, how do you do a back lat spread? Like, when was the last time I heard that? Right? Yeah. It's been a minute.
And everybody's loving to watch it. It's just bringing like a lot of attention, or, because people want to see what you'll do with a young natural athlete.
Yeah. Here's another segue. If you want to see some specific content with David Butler, put that in the comments because I want to see what you guys like, because I'm going to get ready to shoot another episode with him this week to be able to get those people that are either natural, starting out, or they just like the fact that they're seeing somebody from the beginning of their bodybuilding journey, getting ready for their first show. So any of those things that you want to see specifically, any subject matter that falls around that, I'll go ahead and shoot that content and be able to share it with you guys.
Yeah. So, actually, on the athlete part, we have 2 more we can toss in there. What do you think about Mohammed Fouda?
Mohammed Fouda. So Mohammed is going to be getting ready for his second pro show. He did his first pro show last year, placed top 5 in the Egypt Pro, going up against a bunch of Olympia. It was right after the Olympia, so people who had just done the Olympia. And Mohammed is an open athlete, originally from Egypt, lives in Dubai. He's been really on top of just really working to get better and better and better, and he is doing it. So I've shot some really good content with him recently, a couple months ago, and he's getting ready for his second show. So he's going to be doing something in Europe. We're talking about Spain. We're talking about a couple of others. And he is making some tremendous improvements. And so there is, I think, a new photo that just came out a couple hours ago about his progress. So I think most people are going to be very impressed with somebody who's 28 years old. He's in his 20s. He's growing, and he doesn't have a big, giant frame. But he's got a really nice and getting a much more 3D look to him, which I really like. And I think that it's just really cool to see him progress as well. So again, we have David Butler who's starting out with just his first show. Then you have somebody who just did his first pro show, and now he's going to get ready for his second pro show. And he's really focusing on trying to make these improvements because he wants to try to make a big splash. And in the open division, it takes years and years and years to kind of go up every rung. Yeah. And that's why the Mr. Olympia is 400,000 and the other divisions are lower, because it takes so long. It's so difficult to try to get to that top of that ladder. Yeah.
And talking about open, the other question about an athlete was, why don't you?
But let me finish. And I think that he's really filling his potential, because a lot of athletes at this level, they give up. They give up physically, they give up emotionally, they give up mentally, and it becomes really difficult because it's such a tough journey. And now, especially with these other classes, they go, okay, I'll go into this class, or I'll go into this class, or I'll just become an influencer, or whatever it is. But with someone like him, where he's just really just grinding it out, he's working just as hard on his mental state as it is his physical progress and trying to hit these goals. Because again, there's so many people that just bail. How many times have you seen people that just come and go?
Yeah. You really got to love it to push through that final.
Absolutely. You got to have a ton of just really just mental fortitude. Yeah. Yeah. So good friends with Big Rammy. So good friend to have.
He's an impressive guy in person. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah. Why don't you post Hany like you did before?
I think a lot of people don't understand that previously when Hany's here, when we do most of our content. And because when he's not here, it's really tough for me to share content that I don't have access to. Yeah. So we go back and forth on text. We'll go voice messages back and forth, but I'm not physically with him. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are asking, hey, how come we don't see as much Hany? Because he usually, when he shows up, that's when it's like, it's on. Yeah. But it's, we have to still wait on that.
Yeah. All right. One more good question we had. I found this very, very interesting. Is, do you have a set pump up routine for athletes backstage before going on stage? Does it differ from person to person based on, body parts you need to show off more or, kind of cover up more depending on if they're dominant? But do you have a set routine, or is it differ from person to person?
Yeah, I definitely have suggestions for every athlete. Okay. So if someone's strong points are so strong that you don't really need them pumped up, we want to stay away from that. But if somebody tends to have lagging shoulders or their back needs to be a little bit fuller, I have them focus on that backstage. So they could be doing if they have bands, normally they'll have bands backstage. They'll hook them on something, try to do some straight arm pull downs, try to get the lats full. Do the exercises that need to be worked around that you obviously create simplicity. We don't have gym equipment. Nobody's going to be doing walking lunges or doing rear squats for the most part. Now, do some women do that? Absolutely. People that need to focus on their glutes, are they going to be able to put some blood in there? They will, but open guys are not worried about that as much. They're usually worried about getting their chest full before they get on stage, doing push-ups, doing some different kinds of exercises. Sometimes you'll see them even helping each other out, pump up backstage. They're doing that. And then I try to keep them away from doing anything that they're really strong at. So again, arms, I would never tell Phil Heath to pump up his arms, but I actually, you know what? And thinking about it, he has done it. I've seen him do it. He does it. He would do it. He didn't like he needed it.
Yeah, I didn't need to.
No. Actually, now that I think about it, there was a funny time we were at the Ironman, and it was in 2008 when he made a big weight increase. It was like 7-8 pounds of stage weight, and I was backstage, and he was pumping up, and I was helping him pump up. There's a video somewhere, and I got to find it, of me helping him pump up, and then he starts flexing. He's like, "What do you think?" And I think we were pumping up kind of all his body parts, and I just like shook my head and I'm like, "Garbage." He just looks at me and he's like, "F you, man." And he just smiles and laughs. I said, "Go out there and have fun, crush it." And he did. But yeah. So, and there's been times where I just like sneak around the corner, take a look at the Arnold, and again, he doesn't need to pump up his arms, but he would do it to mess with people. He would. Phil was like that. He was great. Like he'd be like looking at the guy with like across the room that would be staring at him when he pumps up, and he'd be like that, and he'd just be doing curls and just be like, "Yeah, you wish you had arms." Like
just like in their heads.
Oh man, I mean, I don't even know if I'm sure he knew he was doing it because he's just Phil. Yeah. But it was one of those things that he was a mind assassin. He would go in there and just
it's a part of it.
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah. And like I said, his arms didn't need to be. He's just doing these little curls, and I'm sure there's some videos floating out there on YouTube that backstage pump up videos, and he's just like putting some buttons. He's like, "Yeah, looking left and right. What's up? What's up?" And he throws headphones on, and he just like, I think one year he was wearing the Terminator shirt.
Oh man.
Yeah, he was wearing a Terminator shirt backstage. He's just like going there because he just had that dream killer mentality.
Yep.
And so Kobe was the same way. He was go in there and do your job and go and just assassinate the competition and try to do what you can. But going back there, to answer the question, that was a long answer to
different from
your question.
To person.
Yeah. It's different from person to person. You really want to focus on making sure that you get your weak points fuller so that it helps your physique balance out. So again, if it's your chest, your back, your shoulders. Now, I don't advise you to do a full workout because you're like, I could use everything. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to start sweating backstage and doing a full workout.
I've seen so many people do that, and then their tan just gets destroyed.
It does.
Yeah.
And what they start doing is they start to get themselves nervous. They get themselves worked up, and then they end up, their heart rate gets really high, and they start getting almost like an adrenaline dump. And so you try to keep away from that. So try to stay calm and focus on what are the things that you need to work on.
Awesome. No. Well, we ran through quite a bit. The one tiny little segue.
I'm gonna leave this, except for the time where we'll go into more detail at this story because we should have done it when Andre was here, because a couple years ago, Hany was on the same stage as Andre, and he was trying to give him tips backstage. Like they're on stage.
Hany was on the same stage as Andre. What was this for?
This is at the Olympia.
Oh, okay.
This is at the Olympia. Okay. I think they had the top 5, and it was Andre ended up placing 5th, and I can't remember where he was either 3rd or 4th for Hany that year. And so I think it was 2020, and he turned around and he was telling Andre how to pose. And Andre can't understand Hany because Hany speaks Farsi, but he's like grabbing him and he's like, "No, put your hand on your hip and stop." Like, and then he starts and he's looking at me because I see him because I ran backstage just to make sure Hany was okay because we didn't have the translator. Paul wasn't back there, or when he was on the side or something. So I just wanted to make sure that there was no issues with him understanding what the next step was to the judging at that point. I believe this was the night show. And so I see him turning around and getting upset at Andre and just grabbing him and saying, no, you need to be serious. And Andre's laughing because he's like, dude, look at this guy. He's crazy. And he's like, yeah, because he's a fanatic, right? Hady's a fanatic. And so he turns around and he slaps him.
What? Really?
Yeah, not hard.
On stage?
Like, but it's behind stage.
Oh,
so nobody saw it except for me.
Got it.
And he slaps him. And I'm looking at him, I'm like mortified, right? And I'm like, are you okay? And he's laughing but he's like, oh man, he's so serious. But it was like a brotherly, come on, get serious. Yeah. Go in there. I want you to fight.
Yeah.
And he was trying to get him all amped up because, Andre is just like, yeah, I'm just happy to be here. It's great. I'm just like, enjoying this time. And Hady's like, no, kill them all. And he was like,
that'd be so great with the language barrier.
Yeah. Well, that was a problem. Yeah. He couldn't understand him. So he was like trying to get him pissed off so he could go out there. So
he's got no clue. He's just like, yeah.
Yeah. He's like having a great, he's like, okay, yeah, what's going on? This is great. I'm top 5. And he's like, no, you need to go. And he's talking, and I understand what he's saying. Yeah. And he's like, you need to tell him to get serious. He needs to go out there and he needs to fight. And I'm just like, you need to fight. And Andre's like, bro, it's good, bro. It's good,
different mindset.
Broski. Yeah. It's just a different mindset. Because he's so relaxed. Andre is just having a good time. And this guy is so intense. Hany is so intense. It was like trying to get him pumped up to do legs. It was like that, but they're backstage getting ready to go back out for their final comparisons and give out the final trophies. But it was a nice show. Yeah, I believe it was 2020 because that was when Andre placed 5th. So yeah, it's a little story of backstage. Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. So yeah, a lot of good questions, man. Yeah. A lot of good questions.
The one shameless plug I'm going to pop in there because somebody did actually ask if there was a Labor Day sale going on this weekend. Oh, Labor Day.
Yes.
Evogen.
We always do a Labor Day sale of some sort. So go and sign up for the email blast. Yeah. We're going to put that up. But there is going to be a Labor Day sale. It's going to be great. And looking forward to the next podcast. Yeah. And thank you guys so much for sharing and being able to tag me. I repost as many of you as I can on Instagram. So again, co-host Austin, Hany Rambod, and that's the truth.